Good afternoon, everybody. It is Alexis Gingerella from Recruiting Daily. Thanks for joining us again on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. Wherever you're at, you may have beautiful weather, you may have snow, like one of our experts today. So hopefully from wherever you're joining us from, you're at least comfortable, and we're going to have some fun today. So thanks for joining. We're going to talk about some candidate sourcing strategies to build your pipeline, and we're going to go over the plan, which is housekeeping mode. Hashtag our daily for those of you that want to follow along on social media. We do live tweet all of our webinars. Please take notes, ask questions. We'll send out the slides after the fact. We send out the recording after the fact. But in the meantime, while you're here, interact. We want to have some fun with you, so raise your hand and ask questions. We don't want you to just sit there and be bored. We want you to have some fun with us. Special shout out to Glassdoor, who is our awesome sponsor today. They are the reason that all of this awesomeness is going down. So, thank you, Glassdoor. I'm going to go to one more slide here where I show you the beautiful people that are featured today. Most notably, this beautiful lady on the left, Holly. She's going to be super expert sourcer extraordinaire today, and she is actually the one in the snow. Now, Ryan, I know he got a little bit as well, but I mean, let's all be honest. He's not as pretty as Holly. So we're going to hand it off to Holly to be our presenter for the day. She's going to show us some slides, some real-life tricks, and we're going to go through some strategies for everybody. So, Holly, I'm going to hand it over to you. Yes, I'm making you the presenter, and the road is yours whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm taking control. Let me know. Can you see one that says Google Images?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am under about a foot of snow with another foot coming, so it's just beautiful and snowy here in Massachusetts. First thing I want to start off with, we have a lot to go through today. I do tend to talk kind of fast because I get super excited about this stuff. So if you miss anything or want me to repeat it, please feel free to stop me and have me go back or clarify anything you need. So first thing, Google Images, you probably know how to use Google Images, you know it's there, but did you know you could use it to source? This is one of my tried and true go-tos for so many different things, and it helps me in so many different areas. I am going to go out and show you guys this live. I do have some screenshots in the presentation. I wasn't sure if I was going to have Wi-Fi today, so you will see in the presentation that I did include a few screenshots for you guys. Let me see if I can actually move through here. So you will have those, but let's go ahead and actually take a look at this live. This was a real search that I was working on recently, and looking for Salesforce developers. Typically, you could use long, complicated Boolean search strings. I've taught classes in the past on Boolean syntax. Truth be told, it's complicated if this isn't something you're an expert in or that you're doing every day or that you have the ability to copy and paste. It can be a challenge. So thinking of ways that you can source easy, fast, immediate using literally 3 keywords. You put in Salesforce developer in Florida. What do you get? 99% of it, without using any Boolean or any filters, you get jobs. I mean, you can actually see right here on my screen, that's what you're looking at. Most of these are job postings. You got the Google jobs. But if we actually go up here to the top and you click on Google Images, this is not going to be much more helpful, right? Now you have a bunch of logos. However, if you go under Tools, right over here on the right-hand side, click on Tools, there's some additional features that many people don't know exist. For my initial searching, first thing I go here under Type. You'll see size. Size, in this case, does not matter. You'll see color. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what we really want to focus on right now is type. So down here, if I'm looking for a Salesforce developer in Florida, I want to look at some faces. Now, here, using 3 keywords, I get a bunch of faces. Is this helpful? Let's hover over some of them and take a look. As you can see, these are not LinkedIn profiles. There's one, but the vast majority of them are not. So if we take a look here, this guy is a Salesforce developer in Florida on meetup.com. So not only does this give you some insight as to where you can find these people on what particular sites, but it actually will bring you right over to their profile. So I could sign up for a free Meetup account, reach out to this person, and contact them. Let's look at a different site here. Let's see, that one actually, that looks like a mugshot. Let's see if we can find someone else here. So this guy also is an application developer. So this brings me immediately to Salesforce developers with my keywords using no Boolean whatsoever. This is huge. Could I add some additional things in here? Of course. I may want to narrow it down by specific location like Tampa. This works for just about anything. Now think about if there's people on the call that happen to be in the healthcare industry. Nurses may not have a very big digital footprint, but when I used to do nurse recruiting, a lot of times nurses, especially in like dialysis, nephrology, ER, there's photos of them in their clinic, in the hospital, in group settings. I have another one here that I'll show you guys. This was a while back, a couple of years ago, looking for sales managers, which tends to be a challenge. Again, using just 4 simple words, you get mostly jobs. You go ahead to tools. Oh, go to images first. Okay, go to tools. I could drop down, we could look at face, and we'd find a bunch of people. I may want to add some locations in here, specific companies. So if you know your competitors, where you want them out of, maybe I want them out of Google or App Dynamics, whatever those may be, it's going to help you narrow your search down further. However, we could take a look here and see where these people are working. Let's go back and change this. We talked about color. And if we look under here, 90% of resumes are black and white. So if we go ahead and change this to black and white, this now gives you resumes. Channel sales managers. Now, if you're getting too many, here we go. We got a guy here, Dennis Bothers, resume. If you do notice that you're getting samples or like templates of resumes, use your simple Boolean. Put minus samples, minus example. Okay. But again, you scroll down and you see that these are mostly by and large resumes. You could even put the word resume in here if you're getting graphics or images. So it's super, super easy. I mean, I do this a lot. I mean, even when I was looking, let's see, I had a web developer in New Jersey, right? Now, web developers, you want to think you could find resumes, sure, but a lot of them will have portfolios. So just going over, drop it down, go down to type. I want to see a face. And here we go. We got some lovely people here. They will have, this person here, front-end developer, IT pros, New Jersey web design marketing team. Super easy. I love it. Like this just immediately brings you to results. Now, will many of these people be on LinkedIn or Indeed or other places? They might be. However, if we're talking about engagement and being able to interact with people and get them to respond to you, you have a far better chance of getting them to actually reply and respond to you if you mention something personal, like, hey, I came across your portfolio, or I came across an article about you, something I found that you were mentioned in, and make it more personalized. So that really makes the difference, especially if you are working on some really challenging positions. And your response rates typically are kind of lower because it's LinkedIn and maybe they're getting contacted by a lot of sources and recruiters. So before we go on, any questions about that?
We do have a couple, Holly. All right, so Jan Hudson, typically sales and marketing people are all over the web. What about engineering and technical roles? So maybe, I don't know if you want to run a search there and kind of run an example, but Jan, the technique here will work for really anybody. And then also, Holly, before we jump off, I also wanted to run through, if you could run through, showing this without Google Images, using the Tools tab there, showing how to use the time posted or updated on the file.
Yes. So she just mentioned talking about different types of positions, and what was the role? She said something more along what line? Technology?
Yeah, something more along engineering or technical.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So this right here, I work for Raytheon, and so if we're looking, I typically look for systems engineers, right? I could easily, like as you're just looking here, I wanted to see systems engineers for Northrop, and that's exactly what I'm getting. Okay, I used the competitor. I mean, I could have just put defense industry, or say I'm looking for a cyber engineer. Maybe we don't want Northrop, but maybe I need them in, maybe I need them in El Segundo. If you spell Segundo correctly, that actually helps you a lot. And again, so here I wouldn't want to look at a Raytheon person because I work there. However, you can see this works for anything. Now, as Ryan just mentioned, and I have a little bar here on the side, so bear with me for just a second so I don't click on anything wrong. If you are finding that your results are a little bit, you need to narrow them down to more recent, right here, there's another filter, time. And now you can filter this by most relevant, okay? So, the past week is not really enough time. I mean, I would typically go back and I would look at least the past year, maybe even 2 years, okay? Because if somebody is a cyber engineer or, they're in sales, typically, that's what you're looking for. They'll still be in the same role, within a year or two, give or take. So that's how you would filter down here to get more relevant results. Does that cover it, Ryan?
I think it does, yep.
Excellent, okay. All right, so I put those images in there for you just as a reminder so you know how to find the different filters and different ways you can use them. So moving along, and now we're going to combine a couple of things. So again, X-raying is not something terribly new, but if you want to step up some of the image searching and looking for, especially, I find these ones are most helpful if I'm looking at particular sites for leaders, managers, directors. I happen to work on a lot of executive roles currently, but it will work for just about anything. So we'll go through this, and I did include some screenshots for you here. But a simple example that I had pulled up here is bizjournals.com. So when you're looking through different sites and doing your image searches, you will notice, you'll notice some redundancies and some repetitive sites like meetup.com, bizjournals, visual CV. These are places that are housing information on the people that you're looking for. So if you actually just want to target those specific sites, so this could be, slideshare.com, whatever it is. But for me, looking for leaders, bizjournals typically has a lot of articles about people on the move, people that have just been appointed into roles. So this instance, looking for a CIO, Chief Information Officer in the healthcare industry. So you're going to see a lot of articles here, but about half of them are just going to be talking about the industry, whereas if I'm sourcing and I actually need to find people for this, I want to look at those people. So again, a vast majority of time when you read an article, the person's picture is featured. So I'll go here, go down to face, and just even starting at the beginning. So here we've got, he's the CIO at MVP Healthcare. Here's another article, Dick Daniels, he's the CIO for Kaiser. So this here, you can read about them. Again, especially when you're working on this high level of individual, having that personalized message about, congratulating them on whatever the article was written about is going to make you stand out from a typical, LinkedIn in-mail that may be very generic. So this is hugely helpful. Think about other sites too that, if you're focused on technology folks, I use wired.com. That is great for, anything, cyber, data scientists. It doesn't necessarily have to just be, leadership or managers. These people are mentioned in articles, their teams, things that are happening. So this is just something really powerful in being able to narrow it down immediately. Again, there's a little bit of Boolean here, but nothing terribly complicated. I do have another example. So this is targeting one of Raytheon's competitors, so Northrop Grumman, and we have a heavy need for cybersecurity folks. So, here you'll find some articles about Northrop talking about their cybersecurity. I'm going over, and we can look at, maybe we'll look at some photos, see what we get. If you get too many pictures, try a face, and there we go. So, if you know what site you want to do a site search on, it does help narrow things down. Particularly if you have, we have 5 big competitors we always want people out of. So, this works really well for us. Most big companies have a news section or a, kind of like a bragging section talking about their people, their teams, or a blog. So this is very effective, and this works the majority of the time when I'm doing a search that targeted. Another thing that we actually combine here with using some Boolean, and you may have seen this before, but I want to show you something. There's a particular phrase here where you're looking for groups of people, and when they're mentioned in photos, there's a caption below that will say, left to right, right to left, back row, clockwise, and then it'll give you the people's names. So it will actually, tell you who's located in who's in that photo. So if we're looking here again, I wasn't so much caring about the company for this one. I just needed some cybersecurity folks in defense. This again also works really well, and I'll show you for nurses too, but let me go here. Tools. Actually, I don't even need to filter this one. I just went to images, and immediately, here's their cybersecurity club. Let's scroll through a few more. Collegiate cyber defense competition, left to right, IT systems. If you're noticing, you're getting a lot of, like this one, I see that I'm getting some educations and schools. I could just go up there and put not edu and eliminate some of the, or not university. But let's take a look at this real quick. I'm gonna open this up. What this gives you, so OSU, right? So I know these people are in Oklahoma. And then here's everybody's name right here. Tells you exactly who they are. You guys like this? No? Yes? Oh, everybody's on mute.
I think they're liking it.
All right. Okay.
We're getting a lot of likes and love. So yeah.
All right, good.
Yes,
Okay,
love.
so
We're getting
this one, let's see. Let me go up here real quick. I do want to show you the nurse one because that was, you could actually pull up anything here, but I bookmark my search strings that I use frequently. So if you actually just bookmarked this right here, you don't have to type it in. Then you just go in when you're looking for something new. RN, dialysis, I would put in more words, but I did a lot of dialysis nurse recruiting. And maybe we'll put in here Boston. So here you can find some photos depending on what you're looking for. Here's their dialysis nurses for Mass General. They do a lot of charity work. They do a lot of volunteer work. So it gives you the name of these nurses. We used to have to purchase lists because a lot of nurses did not have a LinkedIn profile. So, think about whatever it is you're working on and your types of roles. I just thought that was really cool, and this was really helpful. Also think of your keywords too, because you could also put registered nurse. You could put nephrology instead of dialysis. So I don't want to cover too many of the basics with you guys, but get creative. I'm gonna close this one out. All right, so I gave that to you there, so you have the keywords to use. Now, so you've created some excellent search strings. You have some ones that were really effective for you. I do a lot of pipelining, so trying to be proactive. If I know we're going to need to hire a bunch of people in business development or whatnot, and we're ramping up for something, I'll go out, find a search string that gives me good results, pop it into Google Alerts, have it run either once a week, once a day, whatever the frequency is. And it basically automates your search for you. You're going to get your results emailed to you, and it doesn't have to be your Gmail account. It can actually go right to your work email. You can specify that. So if we were just looking at one of our previous searches, And, I went ahead and put it in here. We're looking for what? Systems engineers, Northrop, whatever that is. You can go ahead, it'll give you a preview down here, but more than likely just copy and paste your string right in there, create an alert. I am going to, let me see if I can move this out of here for 1 second.
Holly, as you're getting that set up, a question came in about, so Sherry Davidson asked, she's seeking a real estate attorney for the East End of Long Island, the Hamptons, 3 to 5 years. How would you do this? Is there, I don't know if you can do it live. I mean, there's a lot of tricks or a lot of ways to identify real estate agents. Is that something you might be able to show?
So you said real estate agent, what was their specialty?
Yeah, it's, I'm sorry, not a real estate agent, I apologize. A real estate attorney.
A real estate attorney. So all attorneys have to be licensed in their states, similar to nurses, right? Similar to anybody that requires to have any kind of license. So my first pass would be that I would go through my state, because you can do free searches to verify that the license is active. So anything licensed, you have free access to, and you can typically, get names or check by license number, or what. You usually can do it both ways. So I would try that first. But again, if you wanted to do a, let me see, I can, real quick here, I'll go back over. Now, real estate attorney, which it will typically pull lawyer as well. And you're looking in New York, so it has to be the Hamptons. You might just do a, what was it, Hamptons? What was the other? I mean, you could do this. You could do New York, but you're going to get a lot of New York cities.
Sorry, it was on Long Island.
Oh, Long Island. Okay, that actually might be easier. Or Long Island. Let's see. Enter on that. And you could take a look. I mean, it gives you a list of some of them, East Hampton, West Hampton, and it gives you the full names. Now, I would think something along the lines of attorneys, because they are providing a service, they're going to be listed, just in a search, because they want to be found. So that one, I don't even know if you would need to do an image search. I mean, you could, and they probably have their picture, because lawyers, like you to look at them. But we could take a look at that and go down here. Let me see. Go to my tools, go type, go to face. I mean, I always start out basic, and then if it's not pulling the right results, then, I'll get more complicated with it. So this guy right here, real estate lawyer, Long Island. Real estate lawyer, Long Island. Does that work?
I think so. We'll see. We'll see if Sherry let us know if that works. But yeah, I think that gets her, closer, and we can always help her offline if needed.
Very good. Okay, and you know what? And Google has gotten more intuitive, just over the past couple of years. So even though I put attorney, it automatically knows that attorney also means lawyer. So that's why I really did not need to use attorney or lawyer or counsel. It's actually just going to capture all of that. It's going to return all those results for you. But yeah, please let me know offline if you have more questions or you want to talk more about that. Going back over here to the Google alerts, one thing to point out, again, this is something that's been talked about throughout the years, but I mean, even I sometimes, forget about it. And I said, this is just worthwhile. You can set your frequency. I always want to check off all results, because I don't want them to determine what the best results are. And then you can have it sent to whatever email address you want. This one's set up to Gmail, but I could have it sent to my Raytheon account if I wanted to. And then your frequency, you want to do it a week as it happens. If you also want to keep a check on yourself, I mean, you can put your own name in there and get a Google alert in case anybody's talking about you on the interwebs. So this isn't just for news alerts. I do actually put ones in here sometimes for layoffs. So if I'm looking for layoffs at like Boeing, Northrop, any big competitors, that's good to know. That's competitive intel. So mostly for search strings is the way I use it, but you can use it for just about anything. Okay. I put a screenshot in there for you. See, it will take examples and long strings. Okay, number 4, automated screening. Now, I happen to have, Raytheon, we use Avature. which it's great, right? You know, we have a tool, we can put things in there. It's wonderful. I've only been with Raytheon for about 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I was independent for 7 years. So I rarely had access to their systems unless they let me use them. A lot of times I had smaller contracts, side work, whatever the situation was, you know, or we just had a really crappy applicant tracking system that was completely useless. So there's actually a way for you to use Google Forms that, I don't know if you guys have seen this before or not, but it's in your Google Docs. So it's docs.google.com forms. You have the ability, I have one just for the sake of time, where you can go through, create questions, like here, you know, I can add a question in here, set up the format to it. It can be multiple choice, checkbox, drop down. It can be date, time, paragraph, open text. Essentially, what you would use this for, when I do you know, email blasts or email campaigns for, you know, where it's going to be more high volume, I can send out a form to them to gather some initial data prior to screening them. So, you know, if I'm doing a search for systems engineers or we have an event coming up, I may want to gather their email address. Are you interested in, you know, attending? You know, do you have security clearance? What's your phone number? Any comments? Use it as a screening form or as, you know, information, whatever it is you need to gather from a prospect. The great thing about this is it's totally customizable. So, you know, if you look up here at the top, there's a few buttons. You can change the color. You know, you can actually add a picture. So if you had a branded company image that you wanted to put in the background, this one's very generic, but they give you, you know, a selection of templates that you can use, or you can add your own, right? So you can change this. You can add a video in here. You can separate it out into sections. So this is very similar to, you know, if you've ever used a portal or a sign up page in a CRM, you know, like Avature or whatever you happen to be using. This is just being able to do it in a different area, right? So just doing it in Google, you know, in lieu of having that. Now, from here, you know, once you create it and you set it up and maybe you have your pictures or your color templates, up here you can send it out. So say I had this, I wanted to send it. You can send it out, you know, via a link, via email directly, change your subject. So this is basically your email template, right? Or you can include it as an actual form attachment and then enter all your email addresses you're going to send it to. Okay, you can also share this, you know, it has some of the social media, right? Where you can go ahead and send this out. This initially, you know, if you look at Google Forms, this is technically a survey, right? Like that's the intended purpose of it. But you know, if we apply it to sourcing and recruiting, it now becomes a screening tool for us. So you sure can use it as a you know, as a survey if you have something you need to send out to maybe some prospects in your database or, you know, some people, however you want to use that. But in my instance, it was very helpful to use it, you know, for screening purposes and recruiting. So when you send that out, you know, I did a couple of generic ones myself. It shows up here under responses. Now, when you go to responses, I mean, that's cool. It shows up here, but it's like, great, what am I going to do with that data? And how am I going to get it into, you know, my system or, you know, something trackable? You can link it to Google Sheets. So right here, it allows you to link it to a Google Sheet. And then every time somebody responds and provides you with their information, it automatically populates here. There's no copy and pasting. It's linked automatically for you. So if I went through and did this, it like shows up literally right away. So, I mean, this is something really neat too. So say you sent this link out, maybe you sent out a blast inside of LinkedIn, right? Maybe you have a LinkedIn recruiter account. You include this link saying, you know, if you're interested in opportunities with Raytheon, you know, here, please provide your contact information, you know, via this link. And maybe there's a few questions I asked them. It automatically comes through here. I could then take this sheet, you know, it would have, you know, the person's name, their security info, their email address, phone number, and I could import that right into my CRM with all their contact info. So, you know, there's a bunch of different ways you could use this, but I just love this. It's super easy, takes you a few minutes to set up, and there's just so many ways you can use it. What do you guys think? Do you guys have questions about this, or have you guys seen this before?
We do have a question.
Sure.
With Google Forms, can I create one and include a link in my job posting, or does it have to be sent to a recipient?
Let me make sure I understand. So you want to send this out to somebody with the link to your job in it, or do you want to have your job posted with a link to this in it?
They want to have the job posted with the link to it. The short answer, yes. You always have a link.
Absolutely, yes. So if you went to go here and click send, and you want to get a link, you could get a shortened URL too. Look at that, see? So now you have, something looks like a bit.ly. You could copy this, go ahead and put it in your job posting. That's perfect, actually. So say, like if I had a virtual event or I had a job and saying, if you're interested, please provide your contact information here. You also have an area too. One of the options when you add things in is for them to attach a file. So if you are, if you do have something out there, it's like an evergreen or something you wanted to have them where you're not sending them directly to apply through your, through your ATS, you could actually leave a section, you can actually add a section here for them to attach a resume as well. So when it comes back through to you, you'll have their contact info, you'll have the resume. So yes, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay. And Holly, I answered somebody with a question about finding cleared professionals,
Yep.
but I know you sit in that space. So as you're going through it, you can just incorporate any examples or comments about that. That would be great.
Absolutely, yes, and that is always the challenge because a lot of their information is wiped. They don't always specify, that they have particular clearances. So, my thought on that is if you find somebody that's in a particular role, systems, software, cyber, and they're working for a defense contractor, you have actively working for them, it's a pretty good inclination they have some level of security clearance. I would rather reach out to them and ask them what they have, whether it's, do you have, TSSCI, do you have, just secret, rather than not. I find that when I search specifically with that criteria in it, it does limit my results because not everybody's going to post that out there that they have top secret, or whatever that is. And some of them can't. So yeah, so that's one thing I will mention, and that's why it's included, in my screening questionnaire. We have a lot of opportunities that unless you actually have the current clearance, we can't even consider you. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that, but we can talk more about that too offline. So if anyone wants to connect regarding that and some of the searches I do, we can. All right, so I put a screenshot in there for you guys. Number 5, scrape all the data. So I'm a huge fan. I know there's a few scraping tools out there, but I use Data Miner. I love it. I've spent some time, learning even how to write my own recipes. It's a Chrome extension. If you look here at the top of my screen, there's just a little button right up there. That's Data Miner. It's available in the extensions list. It's free. They do have a paid version. I've never paid for it. I will tell you that I have about 5 email addresses. I'm still kicking it old school with my Hotmail account because when I use up my free contacts in HireTool, Lucia, whatever they are, I just log out and log in with a different email address, and it resets all my numbers for the week or the month. So one of the ways I use Data Miner, there's lots of ways you can use it, but I will show you something. You're not allowed to technically scrape LinkedIn, but there's a way around it. So if you have either a premium account, which is the LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, or a LinkedIn Recruiter seat through your company, one of the challenges you may be faced with is that you have this project full of people and data entry sucks, right? Like nobody wants to go through and tell their recruiter, hiring manager, whoever, their client, here's the list of people that I found. I mean, you could export this, it'd be big and ugly. But the data entry of typing all the names on a list is just a pain. So if you're looking here in a project, for this, I was searching for some data scientists, and I have all these people in here. My recruiter was like, well, let me see, what you found so far. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see the names so we can kind of go through them. I said, all right, great. This person does not have, access to LinkedIn. So I'm like, all right, I can't share the project with you. What am I going to do? So over here, you can actually go select all. And when you click print profiles, there's a separate page that comes up, which you are allowed to scrape. It removes all of the HTML. There's no photos, none of that stuff that would make it difficult to copy and paste into a spreadsheet. If you went and highlighted this and put it in a spreadsheet, it'd still be ugly, and you'd have a lot of the same data in cells, and that would be a pain. So I would just go over here to Data Miner, and I am happy. I actually have very specific instructions in a Word doc for anybody who wants it. If you email me after this, or I can send it to Ryan, for the recipe for this. All their recipes that they had that were free, they took away, and they want you to build your own, but I still have the exact criteria. So when I search here on LinkedIn,
so Holly, yeah, let's get that again, because we are getting a few questions in asking if you have these recipes. So
I do.
If you send that, we'll send it to everybody after the webinar. We also have, as you go through that recipe there.
See it right there? It's actually in the slides too. So that's actually what you copy paste. That's the exact recipe right there. You can.
So a couple questions came in around just the definition of scraping. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So as you go through that example, can you just maybe give it?
Yeah, sure. So data scraping, anytime you have information on a web page that you're looking at, and you want to take that information and put it someplace else, right? So in this instance, I mean, I could be looking at a website with all of their entire sales team, right? With all their names, phone numbers, email addresses. I'm like, oh, this is great. I could copy and paste that one by one into cells, but that's extremely time consuming. So a much faster and more effective way to collect information off of a website would be to use a scraping tool like Data Miner. So, when I pulled this page up and I clicked my Data Miner button, it scraped the page, and this is what I'm talking about right here. It took all of the information on the page and put it into columns, to which now I'll go ahead and click, I'll click download. Maybe I want it in an Excel. We'll go here, save. It opens it up, and it took everything off of that page and put it right here into a Excel spreadsheet for me. Enable editing. So instead of me having to copy and paste and deal with what it would have looked like across the screen, right? It puts it here into columns for me that now I can work with. I could easily send this off. I will show you what I actually do with this, which is way cooler. But you see what I'm saying? So it scraped all the data, put it in here for me. I mean, if I had done this by going like this, and I'll just show you a small example. If I had gone like that and hit, copy, put it into here. You see what I'm saying? It's not in clean cells. So I have so much data cleanup I'd have to do. It would take me hours. So this instead scrapes it for me in a nice, neat format that I can now work with. Make sense? Okay, so now I can actually show you guys what I really do with it. So this is the Data Miner stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pair this with another tool. When I scrape info off of LinkedIn or any other place, I copy it into a Google Sheet. And the reason I do that is because there's this really cool extension called Hunter. If you go to Hunter, it's actually in the Chrome store, but they have a website, and it's hunter.io. Accounts are free, and you get 100 email searches a month. So that's actually a really high number compared to some other tools and other extensions. From the website here, you can take a look. You can search for company domains. You can do email finders. You can verify email addresses. You can do things in bulk. So this is just a really cool tool in general for you guys to sign up for and have. But there's something else that Hunter has that not a lot of people are using. So if I took my data that I had scraped from that data scientist, and instead of putting it in Excel, I put it here into a Google Doc or Google Sheet. You do want to separate out the first name and last name. So text to columns. Don't do it manually. Use the data. Go to text to columns and separate out your first name and last name. Take a look at your columns here. Make sure the company names are cleaned up. And under add-ons, there's a Hunter add-on. And this I'll go through a little bit quickly, but You can search for domain, but what I really care about here is the email finder. Let me move my webinar bar down a little bit. You want to map these over. So first name is column A, last name is column B. Domain, I'm not going to worry about right now. Leave that blank, and then the company name is in column E. So I want to change that. My table has headers, yes. Now I click find email addresses. You can have up to 100 at a time, because remember I told you you get 100 requests a month, so create some fake email addresses, people. Now we're going to head and run it, and it will go ahead and find all the email addresses for you in seconds. So that's really why I scrape data, because now I can use Hunter to run it immediately. Now, some of these you'll notice came back with no result. Those ones, what you can do, okay, and typically it's a matter of either that being a smaller company or they don't have it indexed what the naming convention would be. You could add in here another column, like say I added in a column here to the left and put in lmco.com, right? So you could add the domain in here, and that would actually then rerun the algorithm, and it would now find it based on the domain, which again, you could do here. So let me go to domain. Let's see, what am I looking for? Actually, you want to do it on their thing over here to find out what the domain is. But I could also just go like this. Geospatial National Agency. Let's look for that. Let's find out what the website is. All right, so it's nga.mil. Go over here, let's add a column. One to the left. Here. I go back over. Delete this data. Let's click run it again and see if it'll find it now. Oops. Domain name is now in column. Domain is in E. Let me see. And company name is now in F. Okay, see? So if you find one that doesn't pull it up, go plug in the domain in a different column, and now it found it with 99% reliability. I'm going to pause for questions because I usually get a lot around now.
We do have some coming in, so let
me. I went kind of quick with it. It just takes a minute. You got to play around with it, but you can see how.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and drop them in right now. It's a good time to pause. We do have one. What is text to columns? And Leslie, I started to answer that, but Holly, if you want to just explain what text to columns does, again, that would be great, and show that.
Yeah. So when you paste, and I'll show you, I'll just give you a real quick example. So when you look at the data that was scraped from LinkedIn, if I grab this column and I put it into here, the reason that we want to split out the first name and last name is because that's how Hunter works, right? It's going to go by the naming convention by first name dot last name. But if I had to go down one by one and type Reese, Z, Wasner, and separate all these out and delete them, it'd be a huge pain in the butt. So you highlight this first column that has the entire name combined and go up here to data. And there's a right here. This is in Excel also under data. So whether you're using Excel or Google Sheets, so you hit text to columns, and then it's going to want to know how you want the data. Do it by space because there's a space between the first name and last name. And see here, it automatically separated them out. Okay. And then you column. So you just delete it. You don't care about the PhD or their credentials after it, but you just separated their first name and last name all at once instead of doing it manually.
Now, along those lines, are you able to use Excel instead of Google Docs with Hunter?
Not with Hunter, no. It has to, it's specifically an add-on for Google, so it would not work in Excel over here because it's not an online document. Does that make sense? Okay. Yep.
Is there a limit on Hunter? How many emails can we get?
Yes, it's 100. Right down here, so you'll see like this under this account. I just signed in on this one this morning, so I've used up 16 out of my 100. You can upgrade and pay for it, and it's so worth it if you're going to be doing this a lot or you have a team that's doing it. However, like I said, I have 5 email addresses, so if I use up my 100, I'll just log out, log in with a different one, and it resets, and I have 100 more.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
If you don't have a LinkedIn Recruiter account, what other sites can you use Hunter on?
Okay, so Hunter you can use on, oh gosh, there's so many different sites you could use to find somebody's information on. I mean, if I'm looking at someone's page, I can just look at it and find it. You can search by name too. So if you just have someone's name and you're on some random website or a meetup, and you know that you have John Doe that works at, Northrop, you could put it in here and find it that way. Anything that you can scrape. So if you don't have LinkedIn Recruiter and you just want to scrape another web page, you found a list of employees someplace else or a list of names, and they all work for the company, plug it into a Google Sheet. I mean, really the only criteria that you need for Hunter to work is the person's first name, last name, and the company they work for. This just happened to be data that I scraped off of LinkedIn, but it would work no matter where I got this data from.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
So you have some more. Let's see. What do you do in healthcare when you can't email work email addresses due to the hospital council or it's cut off your council agreements?
Oh, so if you get limited by, okay, so you're not able to call the people. So if you email them at their work email addresses, I'm guessing you probably can't call them at their jobs either, huh?
Right.
Okay, so I'll give you a site that I use, and it's literally $16 a month. It's truthfinder.com. Now, Truthfinder, I love it, and it's like super, super stocky. I mean, I look at my neighbors and Brian Leary, all that. Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah. So Truthfinder is great because it will not only give you, there's my old school Hotmail account, don't judge. It will not only give you the person's work email address if it can find it from social media. It will also, and we'll just pull up for funsies. I'll do myself so I don't. It gives you mobile phone numbers and home phone numbers. Now that's big because so many people like I don't use my landline. I have one. I don't use it. I unplug it because I feel like it's a hassle. So this is me. Yes, I'm old. It will give you their personal email addresses, their mobile numbers, links to all of their social media accounts. I mean, it's so worth it for $16 a month. They do have like an additional feature, if you wanted to look at someone's premium background, which would give you like bankruptcies and stuff, but I don't know how stocky you need to get with someone. So, like this is good here. I'll go over to my contact info. And that's my number. Don't call me. I'm not going to answer. No, that's my cell phone. So there's not many places that will give you a cell phone number. This does. So that's my mobile. That's my home phone. It does show you. Go down here to criminal. That was don't laugh. This was a traffic infraction. Okay, old married name. Yeah. Again, don't judge. I'm opening myself up here, guys.
That's great.
Let's go to my social. You could look at social stuff. That is me. That's my Facebook. It'll give you Twitter. I mean, this is so cool. So this is my favorite one. I know there's other ones out there, Spokio and whatnot, but it's legit and it works well. And, and I didn't even put in a state in there. If you have someone have somebody that has a very common name, figure out at least a general, where they live as far as the state goes. And if you can somehow find out maybe when they graduated, you can kind of get an idea of their age, and that will help you. Because that's something that you run into. You find somebody that has a very common name, and it's tough to track them down. That's what I do.
We do have one more question
Yep.
in this topic. Steve Jewell wants to know, where's your AOL account?
That's one I don't have. Isn't that funny? Never had an AOL. Oh, goodness. Okay. So very cool. We can talk more about this offline again, and if anyone has questions or needs help setting up Hunter, but that's one of my favorites I love. So that brings us to the last one. So number 7, as we're going through here, I hate typing. I'm not fast at it. My brain goes way faster than my fingers do. And, for me, I'm easily distracted as well. So when I'm having, an intake session or, I'm phone screening somebody, either trying to type or take feverish notes with like the handwriting of a serial killer is just so, it's really, really hard for me. So I actually will put my phone on speakerphone. And as I'm actually screening a candidate, I will have the speech recognition on and it takes notes for me. So this is, really great if you have, a crazy relative that you want to record the conversation to and you have documentation of it. I'm just joking. Don't use it for the powers of evil. It really is a helpful tool. So as you can see, I went right to a Google Doc, turned on the speech recognition, which is right here under tools, and it will copy everything. So I love this. You do have to have your phone if you're going to do this. Let me turn this off. If you're going to use this for a phone screen, you do want to have your phone pretty close to the microphone on your computer. So it will pick it up, turn the volume all the way up. And just keep an eye on it as it's typing because sometimes it will pause on you and you just want to start it back up again. But this is also, if you do take dictation, you're in a meeting and you take a bunch of notes and before you forget what you were talking about and you want to read it out loud, all your notes and get it into a document and then clean it up, it saves me a ton of time. So all of my notes when I screen somebody, I can put them in here, edit it real quick, plop it into an email and go ahead and do my submittal. And so that was my last trick.
Very good. Well, let's load up on questions. We've answered a lot. Let's see what we have. We've got about 9 minutes remaining. So if anybody has questions, go ahead and drop them in. We will get Holly to answer them now, and anything we can't, we will get to answer offline. Also, we're going to drop a poll in the screen real quick. If you guys could just take a look at that. We always want to make sure the webinars that we're putting out are good for you all. So go ahead and select as many or select all that apply, the different types of webinars that you may be interested in. And then we'll use this time also to let some questions load up. So if you've got them, drop them in and we will get Holly to answer those before she jumps off. Holly, one of the questions coming in right now, would you recommend Truthfinder over Lucia if you have a limited budget?
I would, and not that I'm not a huge fan of Lucia, but the reason being is because of the information is verified in Truthfinder. Lucia uses a series of algorithms behind the scenes, and I love Lucia, so don't get me wrong. But when it comes to that kind of contact info, I think Truthfinder has more accuracy. One thing I will tell you though, and just because I've never had the paid version of Lucia, I don't know if you're able to do things in bulk in Lucia, which, the downside of Truthfinder is you do have to search one name at a time, right? So that may be a consideration for you, as with anything. Also, Truthfinder doesn't have the ability to kind of store anything for you. You would have to either scrape it or copy and paste the information that you get from that. So those are just some things. I think reliability is better on Truthfinder, but you might have additional features in Lucia that would make more sense for you.
Okay. There are a couple of questions coming in around tools and Chrome extensions, and so I know there's a bunch in there. So everybody that's putting these in, I'm just going to kind of sum it up. Can you show us or talk to us about the tools that you use, Chrome extensions, whatever it is?
Do you want to can you switch the screen to me real quick?
Yeah. Let me close this guy out here. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, do I have to accept it? Hold on, let me look at you. Are you looking at my screen now?
Yep. Well, we were. Let's go. So there you go. We got you back.
Okay, so I use something called Extensity to manage my extensions because I can easily, with one click, turn them off and on because, sometimes if you use a lot of extensions, they're constantly popping up on your screen. This quick extension here, Extensity, allows you to easily manage them. So some of the ones that I use here frequently, I have Bitly, Capture, Citable. Citable is a good one. I showed that at SourceCon. That's one that allows you, that actually plugs right into Google Sheets as well as you're doing your searches and you need to capture some info. Connectify social links. If you have LinkedIn Recruiter now, I guess there's an integrated Connectifier for that, but that's the free version. Email Finder. Falcon I haven't used in a while. Let me see, Hire Tool, of course. Hunter, the intelligent search. This I love, especially for Facebook. So that's a big one that I use a lot. I got Lusher in there. Let's see, Profit. I still love Profit, Ryan.
Profit is great.
I know. Cell Hack. Cell Hack's kind of old school, but when I run out of, if I've used up all of my, my numbers and my usage for every place else, I still go back to Cell Hack because you can just put in first name, last name, and company, and it'll pull up to 10 variations per name of different naming conventions it finds. Source Hub, I still use that. Those are about my main ones. Web Scraper isn't as good as Data Miner. So these are some of my main ones, and I can actually just do a copy paste and send that to Ryan afterwards if he wants to send that out or if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, that would be perfect. A lot of other questions coming in are concerns about the whole scraping tools with LinkedIn. I know you're not an expert there. You don't have the magic answer, but anything that you can share from your knowledge.
Yep. So with LinkedIn, the biggest thing is that they don't want you're not supposed to use any kind of tool or extension that inserts any kind of, is it code, or I'm trying to think of the verbiage of it. So basically, you're not supposed to just go over to LinkedIn and just scrape data off of somebody's profile. So any kind of extension or anything that runs on top of somebody's profile is considered bad, and anything that can be tracked is not okay. Now, what I do know is that the new tool Seek Out, and I actually have a demo with the team later this week, it does not insert any code onto their pages, so it's not trackable. They'll never know you're using it. And when we looked back at the presentation, when I was showing you guys, I didn't scrape LinkedIn's page. I scraped a print screen page. So if you look back at the, actually if we just look back here at the slides too, what I actually scraped was, go back one more. I went here. Now, if I had scraped this page, they'd have a problem with that because that actually has, that's their page, links and whatnot. But when you click print screen, this comes up and you're not doing anything illegal or anything bad, violating their policies.
Okay. So we are just about out of time, but so we have a ton of questions. So we're going to gather them up. And we'll get Holly to answer them. We'll answer them along with her. We'll get them out to everybody. Everybody will get the recording. We're going to get the slides, all of that good stuff. One thing, Holly, let's end it on this. We have a question that came in, and I thought it was pretty good. Is what was the triggering event that made you become a sourcer?
Ooh, that made me become a sourcer. Actually, I was a full cycle recruiter at DaVita, and they took away all of our job boards. They said, no more Monster, no more Career Builder. And we're like, how the heck are we going to find nurses? They're not on LinkedIn. And they took five out of the 80 recruiters we had and sent us through AIRS training. And I said, oh my God, this is the coolest, most stocky, interesting thing I've ever done. And it was so much more fun for me to actually source and find and dig in than it was to be dealing with offer letters and negotiation and just being just being 100% honest. I loved that front end so much more in that hunting. Like it totally just, it piqued my curiosity, my interest, and really, it really catered to that creative side I have. So that's really what it was. I had a chance to go through some training and I just loved it so much. I eventually ended up leaving DaVita just to be independent, to focus solely on sourcing.
Very cool. Very good. And let's just kill this with one more. We've got about a minute left. What was the tool that you mentioned that you used to manage all of your Chrome extensions?
Sure. It's called Extensity. Let me see how to, I'm not the world's best speller. It's spelled EXTENSITY, and that's in the Chrome store.
Okay. Perfect. Well, that
Awesome.
wraps us up. Yeah, Holly, thank you so much. This has been an awesome session.
And thank you, Ryan and Lex.
Yeah, ton of comments, ton of people weighing in here. Lex, do you need anything right now, or are we wrapping up? Are we good?
No, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even want, you can just do this all the time, Ryan. You were excellent. Holly, you were great as always.
Excellent.
This was easy.
You guys.
I just sat back, relaxed. This was beautiful.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Holly, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.